Welcome to Podsauce, guys. I'm Alesha Renee.
And I'm Dax Holt.
This is your podcast discovery show. You're welcome. Just out the gate.
You know what the thing is? Like, everyone is listening to podcasts these days.
Yes.
And every day that I turn on the radio or whatever, it's like, so-and-so's got a new podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is where we shine. We are out there finding the best podcasts, and I'm finding the best podcasts for myself. But being able to introduce them to everyone else is really kind of magical.
Podsauce allows us to get people into the talent, the creators behind it, you know, the content of the show in such a quick and concise way, and they can go on about their day and hopefully walk away with some gems.
And not the biggest shows. I think that's kind of the important thing is there's these huge shows that have huge productions behind them, and they're the ones that get a lot of the attention. And I feel like we've been able to, yes, highlight those, but really then dive into some of these smaller shows that are amazing that maybe aren't getting the attention because they don't have the biggest production behind them. And some of our best shows have been smaller podcasts.
And also shows that aren't on the regular beaded path. And with that, you know, that brings us to your odd pod pick that you have.
So my odd pod pick of the week is The Empty Bowl. All right?
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Here's the tagline. A meditative podcast about cereal.
Stop. Like Frosted Flakes and Raisin Bran?
They are cereal fanatics. Like, and it is unbelievable. Okay. The whole time the podcast is going.
Wait, sorry. These are think pieces on cereals?
It's just a relaxation podcast while they're describing the type of cereal, the smoothness, the crunch, the flavor, the taste, everything about cereal.
Tell me they did one on cornflakes.
I'm sure they have.
I need it.
They have over 55 episodes. Each of them are like a half hour long.
Okay.
But as they're talking about cereal, there's ocean waves playing in the background.
Dax, stop.
And they're talking in this like super low tone that's like relaxing. Again, it got me. 20 minutes in, I'm like, what am I doing? This was just supposed to be some research, and now I've been sucked in to this podcast about toasted oats or something. It was ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
But, I mean, it's got, check this out.
Yeah.
Over 2,500 ratings on iTunes.
For some reason, I believe you.
5.0s.
All right, guys. Well, you know what to do by now. And if you don't, you head on over to podsauce.com so you can get more insight on Dax's odd pod pick of the week. What was it again? One more time.
It's called The Empty Bowl, and it is incredible.
And for some reason,
it's definitely one of the oddest pods that I have ever talked about.
Oh, Angie. The gifts keep on coming.
Don't go anywhere. We got so much more coming up. This is Podsauce. Welcome back to Podsauce. I'm Dax Holt.
I am Alesha Renee.
It is that time of week, Leash,
where I kick your butt.
No,
every
take
week.
it away.
I just don't know about your picks.
My picks have been incredible, and you know it because you listen to them almost every week.
I give you two.
All right.
I will give you two. But yeah, so.
Your time to shine. What you got?
You're welcome. So my episode actually is from a good girlfriend of mine, the artist formerly known as Amanda Diva. She changed her name to Amanda Seales. Some of you guys may know her work from her various projects at MTV. She's also a series regular on Insecure on HBO. But her podcast, Small Doses with Amanda Seales, and the episode I listened to was the side effects of pregnancy loss. This is a trigger warning for anyone who has endured a miscarriage. And it was just such a beautiful, transparent podcast and an honest way of talking about something that can be so beautiful, but in this particular situation was obvious, beautiful being pregnancy. And beautifully painful when you lose life, but you also come on the other side of that with the realization of, but life can begin again in a different way, right? And for me, it just brought me back to my college days where I was living fast and loose, and fast and loose, and I was in a relationship with someone that you hope for one thing, and then something else happens, and I endured pregnancy loss as well. And to come on the other side of that with, but life can begin again, for her, with her pregnancy loss, she realized that she didn't want to be a mother, and making it okay for women to say that maybe being a mom isn't my thing, but I can parent projects, because she's a creative. She creates. She has this overall deal with NBC. You know, I can have babies in other ways. And though it may not come from my body, it comes from my heart. So I just thought it was such a beautiful way to talk about something that could be painful, but there can be life on the other side of that. And so she has that episode. The side effects of turning 40, the side effects of being Amber Ruffin. Amber Ruffin has like this huge, one of the few Black women who have a nighttime show. I believe it's with NBC, I want to say. The side effects of buying a house. So various episodes that you can listen to that, you know, it's honest conversation.
It's going to make you feel like you're not alone, or that someone else has gone through something. That's what I'm getting out of it, having not listened to it at this point. But I feel like there is healing there, especially with that episode in particular, or you know, with buying a house or turning 40. There's a lot of people struggling with these events in their life, so I can see it, listening to it, and you're like, okay, I'm not alone out there.
Yeah, but also just in a real perspective, like it's not watered down. It's very much so Amanda. And if you're familiar with her way of presenting things, it's very straight, no chaser, which I can appreciate. Sometimes you need a little sugar with your medicine. She doesn't give that. It's Hennessy and Coke, heavy on the Hennessy. But just a great way to talk about life's experiences, celebrity, and just from a real way. So Small Doses with Amanda Seales is my pick of the week.
That's awesome. That sounds like a really good one. If you want to check out this podcast, you can head on over to podsauce.com. We'll have a link to it directly there. And while you're on our website, make sure you sign up for our newsletter so we can send you all the goodness that we are coming about on a weekly basis. You
stopped hand delivering our newsletter?
We're getting a big audience. It's hard to hand deliver all of these great podcasts to them.
I was like, why does Dax keep volunteering for us to hand deliver our newsletter? I'm just gonna hit the send button and keep it pushing. But don't go anywhere, guys. This is Podsauce. Welcome back, guys, to Podsauce. I'm Alesha Renee.
And I'm Dax Holt.
I am so excited. I know all of our sports enthusiasts will be excited about our next guest, because we have Matt Spiegel and Roy Wood Jr., hosts of The Run 2016, the Chicago Cubs. Fellas, what's up?
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Hi. Where's our energy, Roy? You better come on now. What are we doing?
Hang on. I had to put my little Cubs logo back there in the background. There we go.
Spicing up that set. I like it, Roy. Spice it.
Matt's over there with all the books and stuff. He's smart. I just have albums.
And this is a dynamic that gets explored very early on in the podcast. Roy has had to explain and like provide credibility for his Cubs fandom because he grew up in Alabama as a Cubs fan, and people are like, "What the hell is it?" No, but it makes all the sense in the world because everybody's a Cubs fan. There's Cubs fans everywhere. You guys know them because of WGN TV. There are Cubs fans all across the country, and Roy is tried and true.
I definitely wanted to know, because Roy, you being from Alabama, why Cubs? You could have picked a myriad of other teams, but you settled on the Cubs?
You can't pick but two teams. You pick the two teams that come on TV. This is your choices in the South in the 80s.
Okay.
Cubs, Braves. That's it. You like another team? You better wait till they play the Cubs or the Braves. It's the only time you're going to see them. So the Cubs came on during the day. When I did it, like the Braves games only came on at night. There was a time long ago, young people, where TBS didn't have programming. They just had baseball every night. And my father had the remote. He would never give up the remote. So I could not watch baseball at night. I could only watch it during the day. And that's when I fell in love with the Cubs. And it was also around the same time, and this is true, NWA came out like late 80s, you know, Eazy-E, Jerry Curl, Ice Cube, Jerry Curl, and then Andre Dawson had a Jerry Curl with the Cubs, and I was like, you know what? I like this Jerry Curl. Anybody with a Jerry Curl must be cool. And so I just kind of fell in love with Andre Dawson, not knowing now as an adult that had to be a disgusting hairdo to keep up with in the hot-ass sun.
1,000%.
3 hours at a time. But yeah, that's what happened. I just fell in love with them on TV. My father has some ties to Ernie Banks and the Cubs organization back in the 50s and 60s. So just kind of keeping up the family tradition, I guess.
So this love for the Cubs, for both you and Matt, led to this podcast. Matt, give us a little rundown. Give us a description of what this podcast is all about for someone that's hearing about it for the first time.
Well, it's an opportunity to look at really a decade of the Cubs' life and a baseball team's life that gets distilled down to 4.5 weeks, like 5 weeks of the fall of 2016, a playoff run. It's special when your team gets hot, when your team is rolling and you think they might win it all, but you don't know for sure, and you're following along and you're living and dying with every day. But the benefit of us doing this now 5 years out is that we could look at the 5 years leading up to that, and really the 5 years since that as well. So it really ends up being like a time capsule on one team doing it perfectly. And oh, by the way, it was the great white whale of sports championships that was left in America. And I don't think there's another one that's hanging out there that's even close. I mean, people had waited a century for this. So you have generations and generations waiting for this moment that did come. Did it live up? How did we get there? And what did it feel like on our way there? So there's a lot packed in for sports fans and for not sports fans alike too, because there's familial bonds that really come out to play.
Yeah, and also the fact that we were able to have so many guests on that played a part in that, from the front office people to, managers to players who were actually there on the field. And I think that's the part of it that you don't get in the highlight packages or the remember when videos that you watch on YouTube, and just how this team was assembled years prior and to how everything came into play in 2016.
No, I wanted to ask, do you need to be a Cubs fan to enjoy this podcast, or a baseball fan in general, or you guys are educating just because it was such a momentous time in history that anyone could enjoy this podcast?
I think if you are a sports fan of any kind, we get you up to speed quickly. Right there in episode 1, we tell you about the legacy of losing and really just the entire sort of magic that was around the Cubs. There were all these different curses and things like that. And it quickly becomes very identifiable for anybody that's ever had a team.
Yeah, it really is something that is for all sports fans, especially baseball fans, because all of the inner workings, and people know baseball is like 70% skill, 70%, 30% skill, 70% luck and opportunity, and just different things converging. The fact that the Cubs had lost Kyle Schwarber the entire season, and he's able to come back in the World Series. But the fact that Cleveland had home field advantage meant that Schwarber could be used 4 games instead of 3. And those little things all start kind of contributing to this. But I think it's a wonderful story. I think, Matt, the next white whale after this is the Indians need to win a championship. And then I guess the Buffalo Bills. When the Bills win, we'll be back to do the run, the Bills.
It's so cool, though, to hear you guys describe and talk about this podcast, because I am not a sports enthusiast. I know absolutely nothing about sports, but I understand passion, and I can see the passion in both of your faces when you describe this podcast. And just the fact that I was asking my producers, I'm like, to put out 2 episodes a week, basically encapsulating one moment in time, you have to be extremely passionate and dedicated and loyal to that thing, right? So in saying that, do you guys firmly believe that there was a curse, or is it more so just the pieces weren't in place? They didn't have the proper pieces, because there's also that, right?
Ask Matt, because I know I have some strong opinions.
I want to hear these opinions. I want to hear these opinions.
All right, let me tell you first before he waxes rhapsodic.
Here we go.
That the curse was bad ownership for a long, long time. A series of really terrible decisions made by people who had good intentions but hadn't bothered to do the research. That's my theory on the curse as of right now. But emotionally, I know it goes a lot deeper than that for a lot of people.
Do you guys dive into anything?
The curse is real.
There it is.
Talk to me, Roy.
That's it. That's all I'm going to say. But next question. It's real. Ghost is real. Demons is real. And I thought I saw a gremlin in the second grade.
Demons here, Roy.
We don't do demons here. We know demons are real. we definitely don't.
We keep them out of our space.
Pew, pew,
Get out of here, demons.
Pew, pew. Yeah, we don't.
No. But do you guys dive into superstitions? Do you dive into the curse at all in this podcast?
Oh, absolutely. We spoke with one writer, Katie Rich from Saturday Night Live, who's a Chicago native and a huge Cubs fan, and we spoke about some of the actual superstitions that Cubs fans themselves possess. I had a Cubs robe that I wore every game during the playoffs. Did not wash it. Still haven't washed it.
Oh my God, you dirty man. Sounds awesome.
My girlfriend made me put it in storage. It's no longer allowed in the house.
1,000%. 1,000%.
But Katie Rich told us a story about her father who snatched up a bleacher seat from Wrigley in the 80s, and he literally holds it like a child during the game when he's watching the Cubs in the playoffs. And that was his thing. But we went into, all of that. And, the thing that was really cool was, to what Matt is saying about the curse of bad ownership, was having an opportunity to talk with Theo Epstein, who had just left the Boston Red Sox, and he had broken the curse over there for 80 plus years. And for Theo to really give us some insight into how ownership was able to get out of his way and let him put the team together that he wanted to assemble and put the pieces in place to create what ultimately, 3-4 years later, became the world champions.
Now, gentlemen, Podsauce is a podcast discovery show. What podcast would you guys recommend people check out, or what are you listening to?
I got to Dr. Death late, so the first season of Dr. Death about the brain surgeon who just kept failing. Oh man, that one got me good. Just finished that one up.
And kept being allowed to fail. What was that about?
Yeah, it's scary stuff. You don't want to think about that a surgeon could be a complete screw up like that, but they can be.
Yes, they can.
Brother from Another with Michael Holley and Michael Smith, formerly of ESPN, both wonderful, wonderful sports journalists, and it's an amazing sports conversation podcast. It's like I'm eavesdropping on two cool dudes in front of me in line at the grocery store. You ever eavesdrop on strangers and record the conversations in case you get something worth using for blackmail?
That's so specific. I'm wondering, who did you
Just
do that
me?
to? Yeah.
All right.
So specific.
Guys, you have been awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And make sure you guys head on over to our website, podsauce.com. We'll have a link to The Run, the 2016, the Chicago Cubs. And it's an amazing podcast. So Matt, Roy, thank you guys for joining us so much.
Yes.
It's been fun listening to your guys' take on such a huge, momentous event in sports history, and how you're able to fill up this every week with content.
Absolutely. Twice a week at that. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. You guys were well worth the wait.
Welcome back to Podsauce. I'm Dax Holt.
I'm Alesha Renee.
Oh, you are getting jiggy with it.
I am, because I'm kind of excited about this murder most foul.
More like it.
Picture, if you will, Morning Cup of Murder, a true crime podcast. I'm going to make that a thing. So this is hosted by Karina Biesmidfer.
I'm sorry, what?
Biesmidfer?
I don't feel like you sounded super confident
I
saying that.
did my best. Get off my back. Get off my back, you little koala.
Kinda feels like
Get
you
off my
slaughtered
back.
her name.
I did my best. Ever wonder what murder took place on today's date in true crime history? If so, sit back and grab your favorite cup of joe as you enjoy a daily dose of TC goodness, true crime goodness, for those of you that couldn't pick up what TC stood for. Your host, Karina
Karina.
I did my best.
We got a laugh from the other room. So.
Guide you through history with tales of murder, abduction, serial killers, crimes of passion, cults, and so much more in this short form daily true crime podcast. So this speaks to your in and out. It's every episode is pretty much under 15 minutes.
Oh, yes. That's the only way I could honestly listen to true crime every day, though.
You're booked and busy like a lot of our listeners. I totally get it.
Give me that.
Totally
I
get
like
it.
the 15 minutes.
One episode skinny. It's titled The Arrogant Killer. Listen to it. It should be called The Dumbest Killer on the Face of this Freaking Earth. He took the lives of two people. Obviously, we say this with a little lightness in our tone. Murder, death, and all those things they're not funny to us. We're just giving you the context of this episode. And the idiot called 911 on himself. How dumb.
Like, I just killed someone, come get me?
There's been a crime afoot.
Oh, he pretended he didn't know
Y'all
anything
need to
about
come
it.
around here. But the way the whole scenario is set up, it's like, good sir, you were the only one that could have done it, you dummy. Let me escort you to jail.
With the knife in your hand. We see ya.
What is that splash of redness on your cheek,
What's the
good
name
sir?
of the episode again?
The Arrogant Killer, a.k.a. the dumbest
Arrogant
alive.
Killer.
Yeah, 900 episodes already in the can, so a lot goes on in 365, 365, 24/7.
Yeah, so if you guys want to listen to that episode, podsauce.com, we're going to put up a link directly to the Arrogant Killer episode because
Yes.
I want to listen to it, so I'm sure other people are going to want to listen to it.
That is my murder most foul, a true crime podcast. Pick of the week.
Oh, man. Well, it was a fun episode this week. Big thanks to Matt Spiegel
Yeah.
and Roy Wood Jr. from The Run podcast about the 2016 Chicago Cubs.
Great, guys. And the funny thing is I really feel like you guys will enjoy that podcast. Even if you're not a sports enthusiast, I think I've made it abundantly clear. Somebody around here is not a big sports enthusiast, but I do love passion. I love when people are passionate about a particular thing, and the way these guys bring their love and loyalty for the Cubs institution definitely makes our producer Angie proud.
Absolutely. No, make sure you check us out on social media. We're at The Podsauce. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can watch the video version if you're listening to it right now on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can find me. I am at Dax Holt.
And I am Alesha Renee. Until next time, thank you all so much for joining and showing our show so much love. Until next time, be good to yourselves.